Good afternoon. In today's class, we will be seeing the next half of Unit 1. That is, uh, we have covered Unit 1's first half and we have seen the basics of computer networks and data communication. And in the next half, the first topic that we will be studying is line configuration. So, line configuration is basically, it refers to the way two or more communication devices are attached to a link. So whenever communication devices are attached or two nodes are attached to a link, then that is known as a line configuration. Now, line configuration can also be referred to as connection. And what is a link? So a link is the physical communication pathway that transfers data from one device to another. This topic actually we have seen already in the topic of networks, but here again we will see this topic, that is line configuration. So for communication to occur, two devices must be connected in the same way to the same link at the same time. So basically, line configuration is physical arrangement of stations on a medium. What is the medium? This is the transmission medium. So transmission medium, as we have seen, we can have two types of line configurations. One is the point to point and the other is the multi-point. Now, what is the point to point? So point to point is if we have two devices, then there is one link or one physical connection between these two devices from one point to the other point. That is point to point, such as between two routers or computers. Now, the next is multi-point, which is multiple stations. So on a single link or on a single physical connection, we may have multiple connections in this way. So all of these 1, 2, 3, 4 are nodes, and here we may have a mainframe. So this is traditionally mainframe computer and terminals. Now typically local area networks are multi-point line configuration. So these are the two diagrams for the same. So the first is the point-to-point line configuration. So point-to-point, this diagram is point-to-point. Let me just zoom it in. So yeah, so if each terminal has a point-to-point link to its computer, then the computer must have one input-output port for each terminal. So suppose if we have here, then for each computer there should be one port so that the connection is there from the host to the terminal. Also, there is a separate transmission line from the computer to each terminal. So now suppose if each one of them needs to be connected, then we need to have another transmission line from one uh, system to the other system. Now, in the case of multi-point transmission or multi-point line configuration, the computer needs only a single input-output port and a single transmission line, which saves cost. So this is cost effective. That is, suppose this computer A, the computer A needs to transfer something to computer B, then it simply has to send it on this line, on this transmission medium, and computer B will receive it. If suppose computer A needs to send the data simultaneously to B, C, and D. So these are our C and D. Then in this case, it does not need separate lines to send data to three different computers. Only one transmission line suffices. So this is a multi-point configuration, and the other one is the point-to-point configuration. So these two topics actually we have seen earlier. Now the next is line configuration data. So this can be classified as full duplex and half duplex. This is also we have seen the data flow topic. So what is the full duplex and half duplex? There's also one more thing which is simplex, if you remember. Simplex is only one at a time, only one node can send the data, that is simplex mode. So here in this case for the line configuration, simplex is not generally used. So we are seeing the half duplex and full duplex. So what is the half duplex? Half duplex is basically it, it is similar to only one of the two stations on a point-to-point link may transmit at a time. So suppose if we have, it is similar to a one-way path or one-way lane, and a full duplex is two-way simultaneously. So in the case of half duplex, so one will transmit, and if the other wants to transmit, it has to wait until the data by A is received. So suppose if A is transmitting to B, then until and unless B receives the entire data, it has to wait if in case it has to send data to A. So only one station may transmit at a time and it requires one data path. In the case of full duplex, simultaneously both A and B can. So this is basically in this way. Simultaneous transmission and reception between two stations, and it requires two data paths, that is frequencies of those transmission link or the line configuration must be different, or it may even cause echo cancelling. So half duplex is similar to your two-way alternate. That is, the two stations must alternately transmit. So this can be compared to a one-lane two-way bridge. That is, suppose if we have a road or a lane, then at a time only one side of the vehicle. So if this side of the vehicles are traveling, then this side should wait at the signal. Now, in the case of full duplex transmission, two stations can simultaneously send and receive the data from each other. So this way is known as two-way simultaneous. And for computer to computer data exchange, this form of transmission is used. That is, we prefer full duplex transmission, obviously, because at a time both the computer A and B can transmit data to each other. So with digital signaling, which requires guided transmission, full duplex operation usually requires two separate paths, and that is two separate frequencies are needed. Suppose if we are using twisted pair. So in the last class, we have seen about twisted pairs. So if we are using twisted pair, in the case of full duplex, we will require two different twisted pairs for the transmission of data. But in the case of half duplex, we will require only one twisted pair. So in the case of if a station transmits and receives on the same frequency, it must operate in half duplex. If the frequency is same for the transmission and receiving, that is, at the same frequency we are transmitting the message and we want to receive the message, then in that case it should be half duplex. If the frequencies are different for the transmitting line and the receiving line, then we can have it as full duplex. Now it is possible to transmit digital signals simultaneously in both the directions on a single transmission line using the technique which is known as echo cancellation. So if we are transmitting digital signals on only one line, that is without changing the frequency, then that can be done using the technique known as echo cancellation. For now, we will just remember the term echo cancellation. We will study it later. Basically, this is a signal processing technique. It is a signal processing technique, and this is in digital to analog signal subject, so it is not related, but you have to remember the term that echo cancellation is a technique which can be used to transmit on the same line. Now, after that, we will be studying the topic which is multiplexing. Now, multiplexing is basically before starting with multiplexing, we will see what is a bandwidth. So the term bandwidth is basically the data transfer capacity of a computer network. So basically, whenever a data link or a transmission line is transferring data, then how much data can it transfer in bits per second? So this is the bandwidth of a computer network. So whenever we are talking about the bandwidth in real life, so in the real world, we have links with limited bandwidth. So that is basically there are not many bandwidths. So whatever bandwidth is available, we have to use it efficiently, or we have to use it in such a way that optimum usage or efficient usage is provided. So sometimes we need to combine several low bandwidth channels to make use of one channel with a larger bandwidth. So whenever we are talking about the term bandwidth, we automatically hear this term, which is multiplexing. So efficiency or efficient utilization of bandwidth can be achieved by the term which is known as multiplexing. So multiplexing is to combine several channels or combine several links. That is the concept of combining multiplexing, that is combining several links. and multiplexing is done to achieve efficiency. Okay, so multiplexing, whenever the bandwidth of a medium linking two devices is greater than the bandwidth need of the devices, the link can be shared. What are we talking about? Suppose if we have a transmission link, and for that transmission link, the bandwidth is suppose 100 bits per second. Now, if the bandwidth is 100 bits per second and the devices need only 50 bits per second, then that bandwidth, uh, then that link can be shared. So multiplexing is the set of techniques that allows the simultaneous transmission of multiple signals across a single data link. So as data and telecommunication use increases, so does traffic. So we can accommodate this increase by continuing to add individual links each time a new channel is needed. So here, yeah. So multiplexing to make efficient use of high-speed telecommunication lines, some form of multiplexing is used. Okay. So what is multiplexing? It allows several transmission sources to share a larger transmission capacity. So suppose if we have n inputs, then one link is shared to transfer these n inputs. And whenever you demultiplex, then we receive n output separately. So a common application of multiplexing is in long distance communications. So trunks on long networks are high capacity fiber, coaxial or microwave links. So in this case, we perform multiplexing. So multiplexing is basically of three types. One is frequency division multiplexing, time division multiplexing, and statistical time division multiplexing. So we will study all the three types. Now before studying the three types, we will see in basic terms why we require multiplexing. So as I said, multiplexing is a technique. Multiplexing, it is a technique used to combine and send multiple data over a single medium. So multiple data streams over a single medium. So this process of combining multiple data streams is known as multiplexing. And what do we use for multiplexing is something which is known by the name multiplexer. So multiplexing is achieved by using a device called multiplexer. What it does is, as we have seen in the diagram here, it combines n input lines and sends the data over one link. And in the case of demultiplexing, we use the demultiplexer available at the receiving end. What it does is, it separates the signal into its component signals. That is, one input is taken and it gives n output. So here we have, in the case of multiplexing, it follows many to one approach. So we have many inputs, it sends it over one link. And demultiplexer follows the approach of one to many. That is, it is getting one input and it gives n outputs or many outputs. Now, why do we require multiplexing? Multiplexing is basically the transmission medium we are using is to send the signal from sender to receiver. So that medium, the transmission medium that we have, it can send only one signal at a time. Okay, so if we have one transmission medium, then one signal can be sent. So if there are multiple signals to share on one medium, then the medium must be divided. So if instead of one signal, suppose if we have 10 signals on this one link, then how can we send it? We have to divide this transmission medium into 10 links. So if there are 10 signals and the bandwidth is of medium 100 units, then what we have to do is we have to give 10 units to each to send the 10 signals. So when multiple signals are to be sent, then what happens is there is a possibility of collision. So collision is basically different data collide with each other, and that is the data which is sent may be disrupted. So for that reason, multiplexing is used. To avoid this collision, multiplexing is used, as transmission mediums are quite expensive. So transmission mediums are quite expensive. We cannot have 10 different transmission medium for 10 signals. And if we even have 10 signals, then collision might occur. So that is the reason we have the concept of multiplexing. Now why to from when do we use this concept of multiplexing? So multiplexing is basically, it is used in telecommunications and even in telephones. So it originated in telegraphy, and the concept of multiplexing we have seen with the help of this diagram. And what are the advantages? So advantages, as we can understand, let me mention it here. More than one signal we can be sent. Over a single medium. So this is the first one. More than one signal can be sent over a single medium, and the bandwidth of the medium can be utilized effectively. So bandwidth utilization, as I said, is the next advantage. So multiplexing techniques, as we have seen, are frequency division, then wavelength division, and then we have time division. So there are three kind of multiplexing techniques. First is the frequency division multiplexing, then next is the wavelength division multiplexing, and lastly we have time division multiplexing. These are the three multiplexing techniques that we will study. So now, what is the frequency division multiplexing? So frequency division multiplexing is the concept of having, it is an analog technique that can be applied. So it is used for analog signals first and foremost, and a number of signals are carried simultaneously on the same medium, on the same transmission link, by allocating to each signal a different frequency band. So how are we sending different multiple signals on one transmission? We are assigning basically different frequency. Now, to understand the term frequency division multiplexing, or to understand the concept of frequency division multiplexing, we have to understand the term what is the frequency. Now, this frequency, it can be defined as the number of cycles per unit time. That is, what are the number of analog signals that can be sent over a unit time, and it is usually written as cycles per second, or cycles per second has another term which is hertz. So this is, so in this technique, signals generated by each sending device are modulated into different carrier frequencies. So for each signal, we assign a different frequency, and these signals are then combined into a single composite signal. So suppose if we have different frequencies F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, and F6, then these can be given into a single frequency, that is composite baseband signal, modulating signal, and that can be transported by the link. So carrier frequencies are separated by sufficient bandwidth to accommodate the signal. So these the bandwidth ranges are the channels through which the various signals travel. So if you notice over here, so we have different transmissions, and over here we are having modulators. Now over here, if you see, we require modulation equipment uh, to assign the different frequencies, to allocate a signal to different frequency bands, and multiplexing equipment is needed. So here we are assigning different frequencies, and then over here we require multiplexing a multiplexer to combine all these different frequencies to a modulated signal, and then it is transmitted over here. Next is, so different frequencies are assigned. So this diagram shows the composite baseband modulating signal. And over here, once the signal is received, it is received by the receiver and the composite baseband signal, and it is passed to different filters. So we have F1, F2, and so on. Whatever different frequencies we had assigned over here, again they need to be demodulated, or we need a demodulator. So to understand these, so modulation equipment is needed to move each signal, and the multiplexing equipment is needed to combine the modulated signal. So here we are doing the multiplexing, and because multiple carriers are used, we call each of them as a sub-carrier modulator. So any type of modulation may be used. The resulting analog modulated signals are then summed to produce a composite baseband signal. So this is the composite baseband modulating signal. Now the spectrum of the signal is shifted to be centered on this Fi. So frequency that is assigned is Fi, and the composite signal then it is shifted to another carrier. The signal has a total bandwidth of B, which is given by this. B is equal to B1 plus B2. So this F1 is the frequency and B1 is the bandwidth for the same. And the total bandwidth is B. It is denoted by capital B. Now this analog signal is transmitted over a suitable medium, and then at the receiving end, the signal that we have received is demodulated, and we retrieve this composite baseband signal, which is then passed through filters. Now, what are these filters? Each filter is given the frequency, whatever original frequency we had for the data. So in this way, the signal is again split into its component parts, and each component is then demodulated to receive the original signal. So this is the frequency division multiplexing. And here we have seen the system overview for the same. Now the next is the wavelength division multiplexing, or it is mentioned in our syllabus as wave division multiplexing. So this is basically, it is designed to use the data rate cable, high data rate capacity of a optical fiber. So this kind of multiplexing is used in the case of optical fiber. So whenever we have optical fiber, we know that we can send huge amounts of data at high speed. So the true potential of this optical fiber is transmitted when multiple beams of light. So we know that we have already seen when we were seeing the transmission medium, that optical fiber, the transmission is done through light. So light is transmitted at different frequencies. Multiple beams of light is transmitted at different frequencies on the same fiber. So this is actually another form of frequency division multiplexing, but we are calling it as wavelength division, because whenever we are dividing the light, then the light streaming through the fiber consists of many colors, and that colors are usually called as wavelengths. So the light that is being transmitted, in the case, since we are talking about optical fiber in the case of wavelength division multiplexing, so this light is in the form of many colors, or we can call it as many wavelengths. So each wavelength has a separate channel of data. So commercially, we have 160 channels of 10 Gbps earlier actually. So this wavelength division multiplexing is same as frequency division multiplexing, except that multiplexing and demultiplexing involves the optical signal. So in this case, we won't study much of wavelength division multiplexing. We will directly move on to time division multiplexing. Next, we have time division multiplexing. So in the case of time division multiplexing, we have two types of multiplexing. One is the synchronous time division multiplexing. The other is the statistical time division multiplexing. So in our syllabus, we'll be studying only about synchronous time division multiplexing. That is, it can be used with digital signals or analog signals carrying digital data. So basically, it deals with digital signals and analog signals, analog signals dealing with digital data. So in this form of multiplexing, data from various sources are carried in repetitive frames, and each frame consists of a set of time slots. So basically, time division multiplexing, it is a digital process. So our frequency division was analog, so this time division is digital, and it allows several connections to share the high bandwidth of a link. So if we have a link with high bandwidth, then several connections can share this bandwidth. So instead of sharing a portion of the bandwidth as in frequency division, so in the case of frequency division, we have seen if we have 10 signals, then each of them was sharing the bandwidth. Here, time is shared. Instead of sharing the bandwidth, we share the time. So each connection occupies a portion of time in the link. So instead of the bandwidth, we are sharing the time, and the same link is used in the case of time division multiplexing. So in this, we'll see the figure. Let me zoom it. So a generic depiction of the synchronous time division multiplexing, if we have a number of signals M1, M2, and so on up to Mn, and they are to be multiplexed onto the same transmission medium, that is, they are to be combined onto the same transmission medium, and the signals are carrying the digital data and are usually digital signals. Now the incoming data from each source are briefly buffered. So buffer is basically one bit or one character in length, and these buffers are sequentially scanned to form a composite data signal. That is, we combine this different data into one composite digital data stream. Now this digital time division multiplexing stream is then scanned by using an operation which is that is, each buffer is emptied before more data can arrive. So here in this case, this MCT, that is the time division multiplexing stream, is then transmitted directly or passed through a modem, and then that is converted into an analog signal, and it is transmitted or modulated. We get the modulated time division multiplexing stream. Now, in either case, transmission is synchronous. That is, we are transmitting the signal one after the other in a synchronous fashion. So the transmitted data may have a format like shown over here. So it may have time slots 2, 1, 2, and we get n. And time slot may be either empty or occupied. So a frame may have different time slots, and that time slot may be occupied by the data or it may be empty, depending upon how many different streams you have for the data. Now, the data are organized into frames, and each frame contains a cycle of time slots, and in each frame, one or more slots are dedicated to a data source. Now, the sequence of these slots dedicated to one source from frame to frame, this entire thing is called a channel. Okay, so each frame one after the other is called a channel, and this is at the receiver side. Now at the receiver side, the modulated stream is received, and it is again then passed through a modem, and we receive the time division multiplexing stream. After that, for each input source, there is an identical output destination that we have, and it is demultiplexed or it is demultiplexed later, and we remove the buffer and we receive the individual streams of data. So this is the time division multiplexing. So now, in the case of time division multiplexing, one second. So in this time division multiplexing system overview, we have a buffer which is different than which is not similar to the frequency division multiplexing. So with respect to this, we will study the same. So time division multiplexing link control, it does not contain headers or trailers, and we don't need the data link control protocol. So it should be clear that as far as we have the multiplexer and demultiplexer, we don't need to have a flow control. Data rate of multiplexed line is fixed. That is how much data can be sent over a line is fixed. And if one channel receiver cannot receive the data, the others must carry on. Now, what about the error control? Errors are detected and handled on the individual channel. So data link control on the time division multiplexing. Over here, we are giving multiple inputs, and we are receiving sending it over a transmission line and receiving it multiple outputs. Now each of these frames together are known as each of these frames, one after the other, it is sent through a channel, and in this case, when the input is being sent, each of them is divided. A simplified example is as assume two data sources and each using the multiplexing. One is transmitting a stream of frames and the other is containing data. Then in this case, these are the input data streams, and when we multiplex them, that is when we are combining the data together, then we are combining these two input streams together and sending it to a transmission medium. Next we have statistical time division multiplexing. So in the case of synchronous, the earlier one, that is in that technique, each time slot is pre-assigned. That is, we have 1 to 1, 2, and so on up to n time slots, and each of them is pre-assigned to the data that is being transmitted. So in this case, in the case of synchronous, so we are talking about synchronous right now. So in the case of synchronous, each device is given some time slot, irrespective of the fact that the device contains the data or not. But now, since we are wasting, so we are wasting the time slots even if the data is not there. So in the synchronous time division multiplexing, many slots are wasted. So in this case of statistical time division multiplexing, it allocates time slots dynamically, that is based on the demand. Multiplexer, what it does is it scans input lines and collects the data until that frame is full, and then it allows the line data rate lower than the aggregate input line. So basically, here in the case of this, also the statistical time division multiplexing is known by another name, which is asynchronous time division multiplexing. It is a technique in which time slots are not fixed as in the case of synchronous, and it dynamically allocates the time slots to the devices. And in this case, the total speed of the input lines can be greater than the capacity of the channel. And here each slot contains an address path. So it may have several problems during the peak period, that is most buffer inputs. Now statistical time division multiplexing frames format. So it has a flag address control. So in that case of time simple synchronous, we simply had a buffer, and in this case we will have different slots, or the different subframes are there. So here we have address and data, and then we have the statistical time division multiplexing subframe, and if flag also. So here the frame used by the statistical multiplexer has an impact on the performance. So why are we using this kind of a frame? Because the performance is improved, and it also minimizes the overhead. So the length of the data field is here given as the length of the data field, and it is marked by the end of an overall frame. Now, however, some means is needed to specify the length. So it consists of a sequence of data fields, each labeled with an address and a length. Now the address field is basically the address field can be reduced by using relative addressing. That is, we can use 2-bit labels 00, 01, 10, and another approach is to multiplex one character data from each source. So this is statistical time division multiplexing frame format. Now, the overview will be similar to the time division multiplexing. That is how the data is transmitted and received over a line. So with this, we conclude the multiplexing topic, and in the next class, we will be seeing ADSL and XDSL. Thank you.